Welcome to Weekend One. I'm Fundo Mabalane. If you had a busy week and missed out on some of the major news happening in our country, well, let's bring you up to speed with some of the top stories and interviews on eNCA. Our top stories this week: South African communities respond to the most recent crime statistics. Kasatu and South to stage a national shutdown. Judgment handed down in the hate speech case between AfriForum and the EFF over the controversial Kill the Boer song. We kicked off the news week with a special focus on crime following the release of the first quarter's crime stats. So what do communities in these affected areas have to say about crime? Well, eNCA's Heidi Jockers visited Vlakfontein in Gauteng, where a 33-year-old woman was raped and murdered this past weekend.
Vlakfontein residents want the police to protect them. The community feels unsafe as women and children continue to become crime statistics.
Vlakfontein, we've got a long string of cases, starting from the Khoza 7 case, whereby 7 people were brutally killed, including women and children. A few months back, a grade 11 learner was brutally killed and raped.
We are asking the community because it means the perpetrator is people that we are living within the same community and in the same ward. Now, I'm speaking as a father, I'm speaking as an uncle, I'm speaking as a role model to it, to say, let it stop now.
It's a big concern because it happens almost every month, and especially in Women's Month. We bury women, we bury our daughters, so crime is too high, especially for women.
Another family is grieving after their loved one was found dumped, raped and murdered.
I think there was more than one person there, and I really don't understand the part where the lady left my sister there to go sleep at home and don't even try to make amends to come and tell the family of what transpired, It's one of the things that just puzzles me. It just brings more pain because I don't understand what really happened to my sister.
The police have told eNCA they're doing all they can to protect and provide the necessary support to the community.
We are doing something about these matters. We've got campaigns that we are conducting to those communities on a regular basis. Actually, every weekend we engage with the community, whereby we urge the community, more especially the women, that they need to report such cases.
Crime has reached unacceptable levels and many communities are crying out for an increased police presence to offer them better protection. Heidi Jockers in Vlakfontein.
Now, according to the latest figures, Cape Town claims the highest number of serious crimes in the country. But what is the city doing about this? Well, eNCA's Monique Mortlock has the story.
In the first quarter of this year, Cape Town Central claimed the highest number of serious crimes reported to police. It's done so again for April to June. The city of Cape Town is hoping to turn things around with the deployment of 100 extra law enforcement officers who will be patrolling 24 hours a day.
Overall, this year we have deployed 230 extra officers, and the budget for that is more than 100 million rand. So it's a huge deployment. The 230 extra officers are going around the city, so this is a portion of them. But this is a big injection of additional safety boots on the ground across the city.
But with crime soaring quarter on quarter in the CBD, why the police boost now? The city says it had to prioritize areas in the metro where violent crimes like murders are a problem.
A person who makes a comment and says, well, it's you deployed, you're too late, is a person who's tone deaf to what's happening in the rest of the city. That's a person who does not understand the suffering and problems, who lives in a very isolated space, maybe here on the Atlantic seaboard. When you speak to residents, by and large, they understand why those 13 priority stations had to be our top priority.
Besides more boots on the ground, the city has set up a state-of-the-art command center. The Emergency Policing Incident Control Program will integrate safety services to ensure fast reaction times and proactive policing. Residents are hoping this will address the spike in robberies and assault in the city center.
If we can have the safety and security of our people with the partnership of law enforcement, SAPS and Metro Police doing all these raids and ensuring us also that our community members and our children going to school and people going through the area, going to work, that they are safe.
Once the program has been refined, the city will roll it out to the rest of the metro. Monique Mortlock, Cape Town.
Staying with crime, Hawks Chief Godfrey Lebeya had his first press briefing since taking office in 2018. The first of its sort, the Hawks will now have similar briefings to correlate with the police crime stats. eNCA's Linda Lomasikane was there for us.
Questions are still being asked about when the directorate will pounce on politically connected individuals accused of fueling the 2021 July unrest.
We don't favor anybody from any political party. Ours, as the Act direct, we do our investigation without fear, favor, or prejudice. So I wouldn't be indicating who are the others, and we don't necessarily rank them. When they appear in court, those who want to analyze their role in society and the level at which they participate in society can be able to rate those.
When it comes to investigating the spate of tavern shootings,
we are not dealing with those killings that are taking place at the taverns.
Lebeya had this to say on Zamazamas.
The main focus for the Hawks is to look at high-level individuals that influences ordinary persons to go and go underneath to go and do the mining. So that is what we do. We work with the other role players, including the members of the greater SAPS.
The Hawks is also part of a task team dealing with the 172 recommendations from the State Capture Report requiring the attention of law enforcement. Slinda Lomasigan, Pretoria.
Stay tuned to Weekend One. Coming up, we showcase some of the big interviews on eNCA this week. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Weekend One. I'm Fundo Mabalane. Now, the South African Federation of Trade Unions has thrown its weight behind the national shutdown against crime, corruption, and the high cost of living and fuel increases. Professor J.J. Tabane spoke to the SAFTO General Secretary, that's Zwelinzima Vavi, as well as the Soweto Parliament ahead of that shutdown.
Why now are we bringing this shutdown, right? And I'm curious to see that the two unions are now cooperating, which is a good thing, right? But it looks like it's a symbolic thing. It's not a continuum, right, of collaboration. Am I right in so surmising?
The march tomorrow is particularly very important and symbolic for the working class. We are marching, and again for the second time since SAFTO was formed in 2017. We marched in 2018 against what we termed a slavery national minimum wage. We're marching now again because the cost of living is such that ordinary people cannot cope. The fact that we're seeing this escalation of prices of almost everything. Electricity have increased by 507% between 2007 and 2020. And the basket of food have increased by 14.9% between June last year and June this year. But if you look at it backward, from December 2019, we're paying 46% more for the basket of food.
Is there something drastic that has to happen in this country for the economic trajectory to change? Because as he's correctly saying, and I wanted him to come to that point, tomorrow is just symbolic. How many symbols must we send? How many signals does this government and the corporates need to realize that we are in a ticking time bomb?
The only area where we differ with leadership is in how we do things. Because if we are going to do the same thing over and over again and expect
doing it for 40 years,
leadership has been doing it for 40 years. I don't, alongside millions of young people, we don't want to inherit marches. We want to inherit infrastructure of intelligence. We want to face whoever the problem causer is head on. Grab the bull by its horns and say, why are our people living like this? We can go sing Oliver Tambo songs tomorrow the whole day. We are only going to go one step backwards. I'm not saying no to the national shutdown. I'm saying yes to a national shutdown that is inclusive in terms of plenary of most stakeholders that are to do with society, because leadership does say that it's a society.
What needs to be done, right? There's a shutdown tomorrow. The unions believe that it's a symbolic thing to say this far and no further. Is this something that can bring about change? And we'll have a conversation.
The people that are making decisions are people that don't have issues. Us in the communities, us in the communities of Soweto, are the ones that are facing the problems each and every day. We are the ones that are supposed to be told that here's the march, we are dealing with unemployment, so that we actually come with a strategy. And for instance, tomorrow people are going to work. People are going to school. They are writing their exams. So everything will be deprived, or rather stopped, just because of the march that was not planned, that is not strategic.
Now, Eskom is threatening to pull the plug on the city of Tshwane over the metro's failure to settle its 1.6 billion rand debt. The city has issued a statement saying it's engaging with the utility on the payment plan. Ropio Madzena spoke to City's Finance MMC, Peter Sutton.
How did we allow the bill to pile up to the levels that we are now reporting on today?
Thank you very much. Well, let me put it in perspective. This is not a pile-up. This is the actual account for July. This is only 1 month invoice, the 1.6 billion. The June invoice was 1.72 billion. So this is only for 1 month for July, and there's no further debt added to that. We've paid all the other accounts. We've been quite open and clear with Eskom regarding our liquidity situation. We've been keeping them updated. We've been presenting them with payment plans. And, we face serious liquidity challenges in the city of Tshwane, which we are trying to deal with.
So thanks for that clarity around it being just for the month. And I mean, if you have no other issues with Eskom and you are discussing payment plans with the power utility, as you say, why then would they threaten to switch off the lights in the metro?
Thank you. Look, to be fair, I mean, this seriously affects Eskom as well. I mean, we know this has a major effect on them. I think any utility that are owed the amount of money that we owe them, and to put it in perspective, I think Eskom is owed 47 billion in total by local governments. They will feel it. So I think that our payment is now 4 days late. They obviously feeling the crunch as we do, because the payment value chain is disaligned. Eskom expects payment within 15 days. On average, residents in the city of Tshwane pay on 60 days, and we certainly feel that crunch as well. We know what it feels like when we don't get paid. We can't pay Eskom, and I can just presume they feel exactly the same. They feel the heat. They can't finance the operating costs and the other legislative requirements.
MMC, so just to clarify for that on the point that you've just made, is it purely an issue of residents who don't always pay their electricity bills on time, that you are late with your debt obligation to Eskom, or are there some other reasons that would have contributed to this month's lateness?
No, it's purely because of the late payments, and like I say, the value chain that's being misaligned. We don't collect the cash fast enough to pay the Eskom account. And then on top of that, many of our residents don't pay, so that we don't recoup the full amount that we invoice out. So if you take it in perspective, if we owe Eskom 1.6 billion, we should recoup about 2 billion of that, in electricity charges. But the reality is not that, because of a payment or a culture of non-payment.
Now, it's been a year since Gauteng Health Department whistleblower Babita Deokaran was shot and killed outside her home in Winchester Hills, Johannesburg. Deokaran lifted the lid on large-scale corruption in Gauteng Health Department, where she was the senior official. Masego Rahlaga interviewed counsellor for whistleblowers, John Clark.
Looking at what happened to Babita, she was murdered. What advice would you give to Deokaran's family? Because they're looking at this and they're thinking, gosh, we might not find any closure or justice. The wheels are turning too slowly, and somebody might want to make contact with maybe an employer that she worked with to try and find more information and give it to the police.
Now, obviously that must happen. However, and this is a point to be emphasized, I prefer talking about not so much state capture, but state dismantlement. That's what happened. We've dismantled key institutions of state, and they need to be reassembled, because civil society can only do so much. and we can conscientize people to do their duty and tell the truth, etc., and bear witness. But the state alone has the powers to actually do what needs to be done in terms of changing the law, deploying people that are competent, and employees like Patricia Machale, who's in hiding as we speak, because she blew the whistle on corruption in the firearms registry in Bloemfontein. The person that was detailed to investigate this is himself now under internal disciplinary, because he refuses to divulge her location, because so we've got a situation where it's not sustainable to have people within the police force, within the SAPs, being able to have confidence in their leadership.
Yeah.
And now that's really a political problem for Becky Cele and the president.
Oh, now you're opening another.
I heard
another
a bit
big
of
one.
General Lebeya had to say.
Well,
he's trying. I always try and give people the benefit of the doubt. I would want to see him partner with whistleblowers instead of participating in the suppression of them.
Stay tuned to Weekend One. Coming up, we look at how the national strike impacted various cities in the country. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to Weekend One. I'm Fundo Mabalane. Now, Labour Federation COSATU says rising food prices are suffocating workers. Unions affiliated to the federation took to the streets across the country, marching against various issues, including unemployment, high fuel prices, as well as poor governance. In Durban, the marchers shut down the city. eNCA's Lethu Mhluli reports.
Marchers in Durban painted the city red, calling for government interventions in what they've described as the country's socio-economic crisis. Union Federation COSATU and its affiliates came out in numbers, marching against the worsening living conditions in the country, the high unemployment, high food prices, and poor governance. Citizens who were part of the march say they are suffering and cannot afford anything.
Well, I just need to make my presence heard by being here physically, to express my dissatisfaction at the cost of living in South Africa, particularly the electricity, the rates, the price of food that has escalated in the last 2 years to such a dramatic rate.
Mina ngicabanga ukuthi ukudla indlela kwenyuke ngayo manje and amathuba omsebenzi asinakho kumanje thina siyasafarisha. So le strike ngicabanga ukuthi singasiza entweni eziningi lokuthi abantu bathola amathuba omsebenzi.
Labour Union Federation COSATU explains the reasons behind the national shutdown.
We have come out today as COSATU just to send that message, to give warning to government, to say something needs to be done, to say you can't have a situation where the unemployment rate in our country is going up to 40%.
The marchers handed over a memorandum at the Durban City Hall. COSATU has vowed to continue with its calls until the government intervenes. Lethu Mhluli, Durban.
The Eastern Cape Health Department has denied any of its clinics were closed amid the shutdown on Wednesday. It's understood patients were turned away because of having too few personnel on duty and fears for staff safety. eNCA's Tongaat Ntlanganiso spoke to would-be patients as they were turned away and filed this report.
It's business as usual in Nelson Mandela Bay, as taxis are ferrying commuters to and from places of work. But some health workers have decided to take part in the national shutdown, leaving the most vulnerable in despair. Young and old waited patiently at the gates for hours.
Sacaciselwa into yoba akusetyenzwa namhlanje and ifear yabo into yokuba kwenzakale abana istafu sabo ngaphakathi ngenxa yestrike sanamhlanje. Ndabe mna ipressure yam anayinepilisi enye yepressure. Last time bendijikiswe apha kwafuneka ndihambe ndibheke kwikliniki ekwaZakhele, which is ikliniki ebhatalisayo i-250.
There was a glimmer of hope when they were called to the gates for an update. But this was dashed when they were told that no help was to be had.
Njengoba ndizophinda ndibuya nje okwesibini ndifika sebed ke ngoku ndingakhange ndilale phezulu.
isifuba sibhamba ubushushu kudala ndisenza iinzame zokulantuka uba mandimthobalalise ulantuka ubushushu akade abe rayithi zivinika yonke into namanzi ndimfaka akade abe rayithi kude kwasa oku engekho rayithi xa ndifika apha ekliniki ndixelelwa ngoba kukho istrayikhi samanesi kodwa oonesi bakhona bayi-6 apha ngaphakathi abazukwazi undinceda.
The Eastern Cape Health Department denies its facilities turned patients away.
According to the reports we have received, a number of staff members did show up for work today, but there are some officials who did not come to work and are reportedly taking part in the strike action. The department will implement a no work, no pay principle as we offer essential services to the people of the Eastern Cape.
However, this is not what eNCA witnessed at the clinics visited.
And in a groundbreaking ruling, judgment has been handed down in the AfriForum versus EFF matter in the High Court in Johannesburg. AfriForum has lost its hate speech case against the EFF. eNCA's Heidi Jokos was in court and compiled this report.
It's a double blow for AfriForum. Not only was their case dismissed, but all 5 witnesses testifying for the group were disqualified. The court found that there was a lack of understanding from AfriForum about the heritage and history of struggle songs. The court also ruled there is no direct link between the chant and farm attacks.
I find that AfriForum has failed to make out a case that the lyrics in the impugned song constitute hate speech as envisaged in Section 10(1) and 7(a) of the Equality Act. The order. In the circumstances, the following order is made. 1. The complaint that the first impugned song, open quote, kiss the Boer or kill the Boer or kiss the farmer, close quote, constitute hate speech and unfair discrimination is dismissed. 2. The complaint that the second song sung, open quote, Bizani e Fire Brigade, close quote, open quote, call the fire brigade, constitute hate speech and unfair discrimination is dismissed. The complainant is to pay the cost of the suit.
The court rejected the evidence of all witnesses, stating they were either too invested in the matter or could not provide how the song incited violence. The EFF says it's satisfied with the ruling and looks forward to singing the song now that it's been cleared of hate speech.
We are an economic emancipation movement that seeks to eradicate poverty, that seeks to emancipate our people from slavery, and then we'll stop at nothing fighting for our people. And also, this racist AfriForum wanted us to pay 500,000. So you can see that really the motive is just to destroy the EFF.
AfriForum has indicated it will be appealing judgments. The lobby group says it can't understand how the chant couldn't be declared hate speech.
We are disappointed by the judgment, obviously. We believe that the judgment contains several very fundamental errors, which we can talk about if you want. So we will file an appeal.
Heidi Jokos, Johannesburg.
Violent protests erupted in Tongaat in KwaZulu-Natal on Thursday. It's been 4 months since the devastating KZN floods, and still residents say they don't have proper water supply. eNCA's reporter Letu Mdluli has more.
Residents of Tongaat say their water crisis gets worse by the day. Residents took to the street today, burning tires and JoJo tanks supplied by the eThekwini municipality over the lack of water supply and what they call unanswered questions. They accused the municipality of reducing the number of water tankers in the area, leaving them without a drop for days. More recently, a toddler died after drowning in a bucket of water being used by a daycare center.
We had one child that passed away. He's 20 months old. He passed away, and we feel that if we had water in our taps, that child wasn't going to pass away. But he passed away because we didn't have water, and at that crash they have to fetch water and put in the bath. So the child was playing with that water.
The ad hoc Joint Committee on Flood Disaster Relief and Recovery is on an oversight visit in KwaZulu-Natal to assess the progress made since the destructive floods. Due to the protest, they were unable to visit the damaged water treatment plant that supplies Tongaat with water. Speaking to their assessment, the committee's co-chairperson, Cedric Frolic, had this to say.
We are aware of the challenges that our people are facing there. And for us, it would have been important to go there to engage with them and to find if the necessary water tanks that are up, and also if the water that's being delivered, is it enough for the people that is living there?
eThekwini Mayor Mxolisi Kaunda has urged residents to abstain from burning infrastructure, saying they are working on fixing the Tongaat issue. However, residents are doubtful and have promised to resume their protest if something isn't done immediately. Lethiwe Mdluli, Hambanati, Durban.
And that brings us to a close of this week's edition of Week in One. From me, Mfundo Mabalane, and the Week in One team, have a great weekend.